And for analysis, we welcome now Democratic strategist David Carlucci and Republican strategist Don Thomas. Gentlemen, great to have you both. John, I'd like to start with you. Let's focus in on these tariffs for a second. So Republicans appear to be united on this front, that the U.S. was getting a bit of a raw deal when it came to a number of trade agreements with other countries. However, the president's approach, as you know, it's bold. We've seen the market response. He's calling the fallout from these tariffs short-term pain. How do you believe voters and members of his own party to note how long will they be willing to hang tough until a pressure campaign potentially builds to change course here?
You know, this is a great question. Number one, we can kind of read the tea leaves by looking at where we're at today and what's already happened. First, President Trump's base has stuck with him throughout all the way till today. They still support his tariff plans. And let's not forget, President Trump said his favorite word in the dictionary were tariffs. That's what he campaigned on. And now he's delivering on that. I expect his base to stay with him for some time. So we have to see more good things happening as a result. But we've already seen unprecedented levels of investment, even before this last week's tariff announcement, into U.S. onshoring of manufacturing jobs. Now, does that take a little bit of time to spin up a factory? Yes, it does. But I expect that Americans are, as they see more and more progress, they're going to give President Trump more leeway to get even more done. And then furthermore, we're starting to see a bunch of these countries come to the negotiation table, in some cases totally capitulate to President Trump's tariff demand. It is unusual, Kelly, that you see a politician that comes in with such a long-term vision because of our short election cycles. And I think that's why it's so bizarre for us to watch this play out.
Well, David, you know, I want to drill down on some of this. I appreciate those points, John. You know, Democrats, they certainly smell blood in the water here. They know Republicans are hearing from their constituents. Now Democrats are foreshadowing more force votes to block these tariffs. We know already 4 GOP senators voted to eliminate Canadian import tariffs. Where do you see this going from here, especially after recess, when we know a lot of these lawmakers will be hearing directly from their constituents?
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump calls it Liberation Day. Yeah, maybe it's liberation from our 401ks. You ask anybody who follows the market, anybody that has a small business, and they are petrified. They are worried because people are grasping onto their dollars. They are concerned. And talk about capitulation. Well, China is retaliating with massive tariffs and even putting companies on a blacklist, and the Wall Street is responding. This is a major problem. Republicans are creating an economic time bomb, and they're lighting the fuse. So lawmakers are going to hear loud and clear from everyone, including Republicans, that this is nonsense and it has to stop. And talk about vision. Well, please share that vision with the rest of us. It seems like Donald Trump is making this up as he goes along. Yes, he mentioned tariffs on the campaign trail, but he didn't mention tariffs like this. The confusion, the back and forth, the opaqueness of what is going on is wreaking havoc in our economy here and around the world.
John, I'd like to allow you to respond to that. And also, just wanted to note, you know, some voters supporting the president's overall mission here still have real concerns about costs increasing in the meantime. The vice president spoke to those concerns recently. He essentially said that the administration is going to have the biggest deregulation in the history of the country, tax cuts, doing a lot of things to lower the cost of energy, et cetera, and that those efforts will lower costs for Americans overall. What do you make of that response? And also feel free to respond to David's comments there.
Sure. Yeah. David said he's deeply confused. I'm not sure what's so confusing about reciprocal tariffs. You charge us, we charge you. I'm not sure what's so confusing about that, but you hit on something right, Kelly. It's not just in terms of rebalancing trade. It's also looking inward and saying, how can we renew the tax cuts that President Trump passed in 2016 to provide that ongoing stability? And then also, this is why things like DOGE exist. How can we tighten our own belts and cut wasteful spending here so that we shrink the deficit in both directions? So it's a push and pull. I think reciprocal tariffs seems fair. I think why it comes to folks like David is so feels like out of the blue is because the U.S. has been being ripped off by both Republican and Democratic administrations, allowing foreign nations to unfairly tariff us for decades. So it feels unusual that somebody like Trump is standing up for the American people instead of capitulating.
Yeah, and that's been the rallying cry of the administration as well. David, I wanted to get your take on this, the political aftermath, shall we say. You know, we're already seeing politicians on the left taking hold of the opportunity here, the political opportunities, you could say. Gavin Newsom recently releasing this statement.
Donald Trump's tariffs do not represent all Americans. And on behalf of 40 million Americans that live in the great state of California, the tentpole of the U.S. economy, 14% of the U.S. GDP, the fifth largest economy in the world, the dominant manufacturing state in America, our state of mind is around supporting stable trading relationships around the globe. And that's why today I've directed my administration to look at new opportunities to expand trade and to remind our trading partners around the globe that California remains a stable partner.
So a bit unclear how this would work in practice, but we've got about 40 seconds left, and I wanted you to respond to some Democrats who are coming off these two House races where they narrowed margins significantly in some special elections. Liberal candidates win in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race as well. What do you make of this strategy play by Newsom and others? Also considering we haven't seen the full result of these tariff moves yet. Are these comments premature?
No, I think this is what we're going to see from states, because states are going to have to pick up the mantle and run with it in terms of how we think outside the box and continue to make America more prosperous. Look, trading around the world has made us the most prosperous nation in the world. And now Donald Trump wants to undo all of that. Look, right here in New York State, where I am, Donald Trump just rescinded Elise Stefanik's nomination to the UN because they're worried about her election. These tariffs on Canada in the North Country of New York are an absolute disaster, and they know it. The political winds are blowing, and it's in the Democrats' favor. We're going to see special election after special election of people voicing their opinion loud and clearly that they do not agree with Donald Trump's policies. Maybe they agree with some of them, but this is far and away a disastrous policy. We can look through history books that show us that when we've done this before, it's led to things like the Great Depression. So I am very concerned, as most economists are, that we are headed swiftly towards a recession, possibly a depression, unless we get some clarity and start to really drill down and figure out what is the strategy here. We're not going to build these factories overnight. And now all of us, particularly in the middle class, are going to have to pay a lot more. And that means that people are going to be holding on to their dollars, not spending them like they were just a few months ago.
Well, it'd be really great to check back in with this panel in a few months. David Carlucci, John Thomas, great to have you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, top Democrats on the move. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren taking her message against Republicans to the red state of Tennessee today. She's saying she's fighting back against the president's tax cuts for billionaires, posting on X, the people of Tennessee deserve to be heard in this